Hello, students. So today we have Mr. Ayush with us. Ayush has done his BTech in IT from Delhi Technological University, and thereafter he joined Amazon as a developer. So welcome to Education View 360, Ayush.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. It's my honor being here.
Yes, Ayush. So I would request you to please tell our audience how had been your journey right from college after the placement and you joined Amazon and until today. What was how does a typical day of a developer look like, and what was your experience like?
Yeah. So when you come fresh out of college, you have talking about tech coding, right? You have very raw skills in coding, and whatever you code, they're very unstructured and they're not, let's say, production ready for a company, right? So the first few months of my job, I had to actually learn how to code and how to, structure my code in such a way that I can deploy it and make it stable, right? So the first few months, I was just ramping up and learning how things work in a corporate environment, how, talking to my peers, seeing the past code that is there in the company and learning from it. So once I was able to kind of get my foundations solid, then I moved upon and I was given some projects as per my team's requirement, and I was supposed to work on it. So, talking about the technology stack, it depends from company to company. So, when you're in college, you cannot say that, okay, I'm just going to specifically work on this language or this infrastructure or anything. So it's very subjective, but it's if your foundations are strong in college, it does not take a lot of time for you to understand and ramp up, right? So it took me around a few weeks to understand, okay, what technologies they use and what is the infrastructure stack, and then incrementally I was able to code and build along with it, right? So the first year essentially went along where I was just supposed to code, like I was given a problem statement. I was just supposed to answer the problem statement and convert it into a code, right? As the years went by, the complexity increased. So I was given more ambiguous problems to solve, things that did not really have a correct answer. I had to figure it out on my own by talking to folks, talking to product managers and customers and all of that. And yeah, so essentially, it's been like a step-by-step learning where you first make your foundations really strong, then you work on those foundations, and then you grasp what is there in the specific company or the specific tech that you're using. And then on top of that, you learn, how to coordinate and communicate with people amongst your team, outside of your team, outside of the company. So these would, I would say, have been my learnings over the last 3 years or so.
Right, perfect. So, Ayush, you mentioned that you were training after joining your company. So, what I want to bring out here is that was that training imparted by a company? Was the onus on them to train you and sort of put you into coding?
Yeah. So it depends from company to company. Amazon, let's talk about Amazon as such. So we don't have something like a training period as such. We join the company and we are working with our team itself. So we don't have a training schedule as such. But what they do is that the first couple of weeks when you join from fresh from college, there are a bunch of training modules and sessions that you have to go to. So pre-COVID, we used to have some offline sessions as well in our offices, specifically for the new hires. But now everything is obviously online. So there are a bunch of video lectures and documents and wikis that you can essentially go through, and some exercises as well that you could play around with and get your hands dirty and get some context on it. But it was included in my tenure in Amazon, and there was no specifically training period as such as you can mention, right?
Right. Also, tell our audience that what is a growth prospect in this career? I mean, as an IT or as a developer, what is the
Mhm.
first stage when you join in, and then how do you grow in career?
Yeah. So in tech specifically and in IT specifically, the sky's the limit, right? You can reach like you can become the CEO for all we know, right? So we start at let's talk about Amazon. So we start at SD1 and then you progress along the rank. So currently I'm in SD2. From a technical perspective, the next step would be an SD3, and then after that you become a principal engineer. So and senior principal engineer. So just talking about what an SD2 or an SD3 essentially means is that as an SD2, I'm not just supposed to work in my silo. I'm supposed to work along with my teammates. get my juniors, work with me to deliver something. As folks become an SD3, obviously the responsibility then increases from a bunch of people to the whole team. So they are responsible for the architecture, for the infrastructure of the whole team, and whatever the team is coming out with. As you become a principal engineer, a bunch of teams, and so on and so forth, right? So technically, you essentially not just grow as a singular entity, or you also need to take care of the team in general or the code in general and move along, right? There's another path that a bunch of folks take, is that from SD2 or SD3, they move to an executive kind of role. So there is a concept of engineering manager. So essentially, people's manager, who tends to the day-to-day business of the team's execution. They are responsible for who is working on what, and what kind of project should we be working upon, and that kind of situation. So you can become an engineering manager after a few years in any company. So there are generally paths there. There are certain other paths as well. You can become a product manager, wherein you decide what should be built, right? So you have a team, you have a charter, but you decide what next do you want to build, or what should you expand into. So it has some business aspect into it as well. So yeah, I think these are like three broader categories that I can bifurcate, that from here on, anybody can take it. But I think the first step would be to grow as an engineer, and from an SD1 to an SD2 to, let's say, an SD3 should grow, and then you can go to your separate path as per your career goals.
Right. Thank you, Ayush. Thanks for all your insights. I'm sure it's going to help a lot of students. And for students, please stay tuned and keep liking and subscribing to the channel if you feel the videos are of use to you.